All right, I'm here today with Thomas Gorman. He's a platoon sergeant with Charlie Company 310 MEDEVAC, also known as the Mountain Dust Off. Sergeant First Class Gorman, how long have you been in the Army and how long have you been in MEDEVAC?
I've been in the Army for 8 years, and I've been in the MEDEVAC for just under 2.
All right, and what drew you to the MEDEVAC mission?
I've always loved to fly. I've only flown a couple times prior to being a flight medic, but fell in love with it the first time it happened. And that would be the primary reason why I joined the MEDEVAC. The secondary is probably because of the training that we get, the advanced level of training that flight paramedics have over regular 68 whiskeys or combat medics.
So you said you've been in MEDEVAC for about 2 years. So what position do you currently hold, and explain what your specific job function is and how that supports the overall mission for the MEDEVAC?
I'm the platoon sergeant for the 1st Forward Support Medical Platoon for Charlie Company, and I would have to say that my primary job is the principal advisor to the platoon leader, and then I manage the welfare, accountability, and daily actions of the soldiers of the platoon. I help coordinate training for the soldiers of the platoon, primarily the medics, but being that I'm a medic, I help manage their training, keep track of their training, and that's really about it, just an overseer, really.
Do you operate as a paramedic still within the platoon, or are you specifically up there controlling the other soldiers within the platoon?
A little bit of both, actually. I work as a paramedic, but I would have to say that the management portion of my job is a little bit more important than the practical portion. So my hands-on paramedicine duties are, I would say, slightly diminished compared to the others in the platoon that are below me. You know, I'm a flight paramedic just the same as any flight paramedic in the company. I have the same training, same skill set that they do.
Can you describe a little bit the difference between a regular medic and a critical care flight paramedic?
Well, I guess to really explain the difference would be to kind of give you an oversight of what a combat medic is. They receive about 16 weeks of training at Fort Sam Houston to become what we call a healthcare specialist / combat medic. And encompassed is the EMT basic certification, nationally registered. And then on top of that, they receive what we call 68 whiskey training, which is our MOS. It's pertinent to the skill set that is required of a medic in the Army. Those are particularly assigned to ground units and hospitals or aid stations where they work closely with a practitioner that oversees them and gives them protocols to work under. Whereas a flight paramedic is nationally registered at a higher credential than a 68 whiskey, being that we hold a paramedic certification with the National Registry versus the basic. So we go through approximately 9 more months of didactic or lecture style training to build upon the training that 68 whiskeys have from the ground up. And then we also go through a critical care phase portion of training that teaches us the critical thinking aspect of it, how to manage long-term and prolonged field care.
How does this relate to the equivalent thing on the civilian side?
Okay, so one of the best ways to explain it is an ambulance that when you call 911, for example, you get an ambulance on the scene. Generally, if it's a basic life support ambulance, you'll have an EMT and perhaps a first responder. Those would be comparable to our 68 whiskeys, our combat healthcare specialist. And then if that ground ambulance were to contact a life flight, for example, or LifeNet air evac service, who has a paramedic trained in critical care management of a patient, then that's the type of training or accreditation, that's the type of certification level you would get on the aircraft in the civilian world. And then that's where the flight paramedics in the Army would be equivalent to.
And what are some of those credentials specifically that you guys carry that the civilians carry as well?
Okay, well they generally have to be nationally registered as a paramedic, the same as we are. They have to hold either a CCFP, which is critical care flight paramedic, or FPC flight paramedic certification, one of the two, in order to function as that in that role on a civilian medevac aircraft. So we hold that certification in the Army as well. We hold the National Registered Paramedic, and then all flight paramedics in the Army challenge the FPC exam at the very minimum.
So how is the Army ensuring that flight paramedics are maintaining the same level of training and competency as the civilian side?
In the Army, we have the what we call the Fox 2 recertification program, Fox 2 being our additional skill identifier as a flight paramedic. We attend 2 weeks of training, in-house training at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas.
Do you have anything else you'd like to put out?
As far as paramedicine goes, or for the flight medics, the only recommendation I could make is that you can't rely on the Army's sustainment program solely. Even unit sustainment programs aren't really enough if you want to be an expert. We should be experts in our field because people's lives hang in the balance. They need to understand that their personal time is going to make the difference between being the expert or just being the basic minimum qualified card holder.
All right, well, just to round out the whole interview and we'll end an upward note, what's the best part of your job?
I'd have to say when ground medics look at you and say, "Thank God you're here,"